The 60s still, when TV began, when anything new begins, any big new industry, radio, commercial aviation, any of that stuff, early on women often do very well because it's sort of disorganized, it doesn't pay all that well, it's kind of messy, and you can just kind of jump in and do stuff. Then when it becomes a very big deal, women tend to get, or at least tended in those days, to get pushed out. Television in the very early days, when you go back to, say, the days of I Love Lucy, you can remember a lot of TV shows, many of them kind of dumb. I mean, you wouldn't want My Little Margie to be your sort of role model, but lots of shows featuring women in important roles. Then when television became a very big deal, they all went away. And you really had no shows in which women were the main characters. And particularly in the 60s, Westerns were the huge thing, you know, adventures, Westerns, and they were all about some guy, usually riding alone out there in the West. And women never showed up except when they were being kidnapped or, you know, in danger in some way. And it really, the message I got when I was a kid watching all these shows, I remember Bonanza so well. You know, you had this guy who owned this big ranch, and he's a widower. In fact, he's been a widower 3 times, and he has 3 sons, 1 from each dead wife. And the sons are always falling in love with somebody, and instantly this girl dies. I mean, really, you walk near the Ponderosa and you are dead. It's all like a toxic landmine for women. And the message you got from that, if you were a young girl watching, was that girls do not have adventures. Girls stay home, and they, if you watch the situation comedies, they wander around the kitchen in high heels with pearls on, stirring something a lot, you know, but they hardly go out the door. They're just sort of sitting there in the kitchen all day long. And it was a very repressive and small vision of what women could be.
Discuss, if you would, the introduction of the Barbie doll and the significance of the Barbie image.
Yeah, Barbie was the, you know, dolls were, you know, little sort of chunky baby things, you know, and they were sort of stocky like little girls, little toddlers. And suddenly Barbie came along, and Barbie was the first doll with sort of an adult kind of figure that most little girls had ever seen. It came along in the late 50s, really hit it big in the 60s. And a lot of the women that I talked to in the book really remembered their first Barbie, and you know, she had breasts and this teeny tiny waist, and she had this totally irrational kind of figure that no human being ever has. And then Ken came along. I cannot tell you how many women told me that Ken and Barbie were having a lot more sex than I thought, you know, under the washcloth usually, they said. You know, they're going at it, so.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.